It's a massage therapist for horses. So a lot of sport horses that do eventing or barrel racing or any type of competing obviously have a lot of strain on their muscles and ligaments and tendons and whatnot. And so that was the first business I ever started.
I love bookkeeping.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the I Love Bookkeeping Show. I am your host, Ben Robinson. As always, I am glad to be here, and I'm glad to share today with a very special person, as she is really cool. She lives in southern Michigan. She has a farm in southern Michigan, lower Michigan. She raises crops there, corn and soybeans. She also has steers, Hereford cows. A great little thing about this, which I got to dive into her with, is that she is a certified equine massage therapist. That's really cool. But as it relates to the bookkeeping profession, she serves agriculture. And I am pleased to have with me today, Hannah Yoder.
Thanks, Ben. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so let's dive right into that equine massage therapist thing. I got to touch on that because I like to find those unique points. I've never heard of such a thing. What is that?
Yeah, so most people actually haven't. It's a massage therapist for horses. So a lot of sport horses that do eventing or barrel racing or any type of competing obviously have a lot of strain on their muscles and ligaments and tendons and whatnot. And so that was the first business I ever started. And I'll be really honest, it was a fail. So not that there isn't a demand for it, but it was a fail. So
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I think that all of us have had at least one failure in business, and that just gives us a springboard. So
absolutely. It did into the bookkeeping. It really helped me to know what I wanted.
Yeah. Do the horses tip well?
Occasionally.
Occasionally they do. I got you. Okay. Oh, that's very interesting. I love that. I grew up around quarter horses.
Oh, yes.
And of course, they're not worth anything except for showing and some other things like that. But it was all for show.
Yeah.
Anyway, very cool. So, and you farm as well in your spare time, right? Because I know that farming is it doesn't require much time at all.
No, not at all. Yeah. So it's definitely the main point of my husband and I's lives. He farms with his dad and his brother on an operation that covers about 2,500 acres. And then personally, we do the cattle operation with the Herefords are the breeding stock, the mama cows and the calves. And that's definitely my sweet spot with the farming. I love my cows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have here, she breeds them, he feeds them. Love that on your LinkedIn profile. That's great.
Yeah, he definitely does a lot of research into feeding out the steers so that we can sell them for freezer beef. And he loves that so much. So that was his slogan that he came up with. He was pretty proud of it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. So let's dive into this whole bookkeeping notion here thing. I really want to get to the bottom. Like, how do you go from a certified equine massage therapist to a bookkeeping professional? So let's kind of dive into that a little bit. First question is, why in the world bookkeeping? What made you decide to choose this venture?
Yeah, so there's kind of a little bit of a history with that. With the equine massage, I just found that I was traveling a lot and pretty far distances to get to my clients, which ended up meaning I wasn't making as much money because I was really scared to charge for mileage. And so it just took a lot of time, and I wasn't able to be there when my husband needed me on the farm occasionally. I just wasn't able to keep track of the cows during calving season. And so along with that, when I married my husband, I inherited his bookkeeping from his mom, and it was terrible. It was definitely end of the year, pulling out our hair because there's nothing but a shoebox of receipts, and Zach doesn't remember anything. And it was like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. So I was kind of researching jobs that I could do from home, because that's a real passion for me, is to be able to be home, be here for my husband, be a part of the farming operation without just being a stay-at-home wife. I want to bring in some income. And so I came across your course in the penny hoarder, and I was like, Zach, I think I can do this. And of course, he's super supportive. He's like, of course you can. And looking back, he's like, at first I thought you were crazy. At first I thought there was no way you're actually going to make a business out of this. But, he gave me false support, and it worked. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. All right. So you learned about Bookkeeper Business Launch through the Penny Hoarder. I mean, by the way, we love the Penny Hoarder. So if Kyle is listening today, I love you, Kyle.
Yeah.
You love to support us, but that's great. All right. So you said, all right, I'm going to give this a try. And when was this?
That was in the fall of 2016.
Okay. So 2.5 years ago, roughly, right?
Yep. Right about.
Okay. All right. And let's kind of fast forward, and then we'll fill in the gaps in between. How many clients do you serve currently?
I knew you were going to ask me that, because I've been watching the other episodes and I was going to tally them up and I didn't. So
Okay.
it's roughly 12, I think.
Okay. All right. 12, I think. Right.
Yeah.
I understand that. Okay. So you went from, did you have any clients other than your husband when you came and started this business?
No, and really no background other than what little I did for my husband.
I gotcha. Okay. So you just threw yourself to the wolves there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Which is great, right? Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So obviously, we always say that going through Bookkeeper Business Launch or anybody's program doesn't do jack squat for you if you don't implement and if you don't take action.
Yeah.
So kind of walk us through like being a part of the program. What was that like to you, having no experience other than working for your husband and now trying to make a business out of it? What was it like going through the program?
So I knew that because you told me in the program that you were giving me all the tools I needed to be an exceptional bookkeeper. I knew that was true, but I felt like I'm missing something. There's something too simple about this. And so there was a lot of fear, excuse me, going into like actually taking on a client, because I thought, I'm missing something. I know I am. But the biggest thing I found was having my first client. He was just the perfect one for me because he had no historical cleanup. I mean, he was starting his books out new. It was wonderful. But after he gave me that confidence that, hey, I think I do know what I'm doing. I think I am a pretty good bookkeeper. I found that whenever I looked into another client's books as I would gain them, that the mess that their bookkeeper would leave, like, wow, Ben really did give me way more than I needed to be an exceptional bookkeeper, because these people's books are messes and,
Sure.
they didn't have a clue what was going on.
Gotcha. So let's dive into that first client, because that's a huge monumental, that's the thing that turns the dial.
Yeah.
When you get that client. So how did you get this first client?
Actually, all of my clients so far have been from LinkedIn mining, which I love. Melanie Dodoro's videos that you guys have in the course. So,
yeah, LinkedIn mining, and so that is a mini course, if you will, that we have inside of Bookkeeper Business Launch, and it's specifically for bookkeeping professionals. Have you spent any money advertising or doing that on LinkedIn?
No, not on LinkedIn. Initially, I thought I needed to spend money in Facebook, which resulted in 0 clients. So as far as advertising and paid marketing, the stuff that's worked has been completely free.
Absolutely. Love that. Love that. So every single one, so a dozen clients, let's call it, and all of them have come through working on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Now, what is your niche?
Agriculture. So I initially started out niching in farmers, but I found out pretty quickly that farmers don't want to pay someone to do their books. So I kind of broadened the spectrum, and that's when I really started to gain clients. So
for me, and of course, I know the answer to this. I'm not asking for me, but what's the difference between farming and agriculture? I don't know the answer to it. So you're helping me.
Well, like a farmer is, the person who owns an operation that's either, generating some sort of row crop or fruit or vegetable or, meat source like cattle or lamb or anything like that. That's the actual farmer. Agriculture expands into, there's a lot of seed salesmen. There's a lot of agricultural consultants, a lot of people with agribusinesses that really aren't the farmer on the farm, a lot of equipment salesmen and whatnot.
I gotcha. All right. That makes total sense. And so you find these people to be more receptive to not doing the books, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. A farmer, and like I said, I should have known it because I married one, but they love to do everything themselves. And if they can possibly do it for cheaper, they'll try, And so it wasn't I didn't feel like it was a good industry for me to be so specific in.
Yeah. And you say it here in your LinkedIn profile, you talk about your experience in farming. You say, as much as we love this life, I wouldn't wish the book work upon my worst enemy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty rough.
Yeah. Yeah. So I imagine. So this is what these are the industries and the individuals that you're targeting on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Do you find it easier to find these type of kind of broader agricultural on LinkedIn versus farmers?
I'm actually surprised at the amount of participation from farmers on LinkedIn, farmers and ranchers. I really searched on Facebook, and it was hard for me to find farmers on Facebook. I started searching on LinkedIn, and it was like, wow, there's actually a lot of them out here. And I think more the ones that I would want to work with because they are tech savvy. They are looking for new ideas and new ways to boost their operation. So
I gotcha. Okay. That's awesome. So obviously fear is a big thing, and you've mentioned that, and you got that first client and you started to break through that fear. What other fears between when you started in 2016, the fall of 2016, and today have you had to break through? Because that's one of the recurring things that you and I know as business owners, that there's always another one. There's always something that we have to grow. So kind of enlighten us on other fears, limiting beliefs, and sorts of things that you've had to overcome.
Yeah. So I think one of my great fears, and I think I have to break through it almost on a daily basis, is that my clients aren't going to be happy, that they're going to find something that, she doesn't do enough. She doesn't do this fast enough. Just that type of, I don't know, not accepting who I am and what I'm doing for them. Even though when I ask my clients, I get awesome feedback. I get, a lot of, hey, we love you. You're making a difference. I have a hard time, it's just probably a personal issue, but it's like one of these days when I go to invoice them, they're going to be like, you know what, you just aren't doing enough for us. And I'm not paying that invoice. That is every time I go to invoice, that is my fear. I even talked to my husband about it. Oh, today I have to send out invoices.
Wow.
And I'm just scared that they're going to be like, I don't want to pay that. And, I've never had it happen, So breaking through that fear and realizing, I think again, that when I look at, other bookkeepers' mistakes and things that they've done wrong in these people's books that I was able to fix, I go, wow, I am valuable and I am worth what I'm charging. And so that's something that is a continual breakthrough for me, I think.
Okay. Is there anything, having gone, being 2.5 years into this and having a thriving bookkeeping business, is there anything that you wish you would have done different or that you would have known or not have known now that you can look back a couple of years on this?
I think if I could do it different, I have to kind of think about that.
Yeah, that's one of those past questions that we talked
about.
Family feud. Past. Go on to the next one. We can come back to that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good that you don't have anything that's kind of coming up, because a lot of times we kick ourselves for I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda, and really we just have to kind of roll with it and say what got us here was the mistakes that we made.
Yeah.
And they really weren't mistakes. They were learning and growing experiences.
Yeah. And I can honestly say that I passed up a lot of those mistakes just by listening to your advice. I had the opportunity to gain my first client, not the one that I ended up having as a first client, but a guy who reached out to me before, and he's like, hey, my books are a mess. I really need your services. And I was like, oh, this could be my first client. How exciting. Well, his books needed a lot of cleanup, and he was not even close to willing to pay for the price that it cost. And I negotiated it down to as far as I was comfortable. I think you said 50% on cleanup, and I negotiated, I'll just make him pay 40% of that price. And he's like, there's no way, and, he was begging me to do the work, but not wanting to pay the price. And I said, I'm sorry, I know my value, and I can't do that. And that was for my first client. And I just think back and I'm like, oh, thank God that I didn't, because I think it would have started a spiral downhill for myself, but it also would have probably put me in a pretty lousy position for that guy's work.
Yeah. Well, good for you for having the gumption to do that, because I didn't when I started off. And you say that kind of the course helped you to save a lot of mistakes. Well, it didn't me, because I didn't have it. So a lot of what we go through is just like, oh, I screwed that up, 7 ways to Sunday, and here we are. This is the better way to do it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I try to do now is when I'm learning something new, I always say, hey, who's already been there? Who's already done this? And how can I shortcut and learn from what they've done or not done?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you consider yourself to be employable? Would you ever want to go back to working for someone else now that you have your own gig?
It's kind of funny because I told Zach the other day, I said, this is sometimes, some days I just don't want to own my own business. Some days it's like this stress is, of trying to make decisions for a business. I don't want to do this. And I thought about it. I'm like, but I wouldn't want to do anything else, So I don't know that I could ever be employable again. No.
What's your favorite thing about working for yourself?
I heard you ask that on one of the podcasts, and I was thinking about it the one day, and Zach called me and he's like, hey, I didn't actually have to haul corn today, so I can come home for breakfast. And it was like 10 o'clock. And I was able to sit down and eat breakfast with my husband. And I just thought, wow, if I was at a job right now, it wouldn't matter what day he got off, what day it was raining, that he could stay home and we could do something fun. It wouldn't be flexible. It would just be like, oh, I know that Zach has free time and I'm stuck at a 9-to-5 job. And so I think that is my very favorite thing.
That's awesome. Yes. And that's a great thing. And then there's also those days, like you said, you're like, what am I doing being self-employed?
Yes. There are those days.
You feel like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, right?
Yes.
Right. And you know what? I go through that. Everybody that I speak to that's honest about it, we all feel that way. It's a roller coaster, but the good far outweigh the bad.
Absolutely.
Right? Kind of like having teenagers in my house. Now that 2 of them are gone and 1 of them remains, you take the good with the bad, but the good is so much better than the bad.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, you've got this successful business, but let's talk about the future, right? Let's talk about the opportunity that I know is in front of you. So why don't you tee that up for us, and let's see if we can't come to some solutions here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing some research on cash flow and, how to add that as like a value add service to my business. I see a lot of my clients struggling with it. I see just a lot of businesses in general struggling with it. So I thought, this is something that I could hopefully add value to my current clients, but also gain new clients under, this proposition that I can help their cash flow. And I'm just a little bit, I want to learn everything I can about cash flow management and forecasting. And so I'm a little bit confused because what feel like I've learned so far is you pretty much forecast, but then I get lost after that. Where do I go after I come up with this beautiful forecast and the client says, oh, yep, looks right. Yeah, it does. And we're going to run out of money in May, and okay. So then how does that add value and what am I supposed to do with it?
Okay, great. All right. So first of all, kudos to you for considering advisory services. As you know, we talk about it a lot inside of Bookkeeper Business Launch. You have to be more than just a bookkeeper. What you're talking about doing here, Hannah, isolates you from a bot keeper,
Right.
isolates you from artificial intelligence, although it can help you in this. But first of all, pat yourself on the back for even considering this. So good job.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, it's one thing to say, I want to do this, and the next thing to implement it. So let's kind of dive in. First of all, have your clients ask you for this?
One did.
Okay.
And that was a while ago. It was currently being forecasted by someone else. And they said, can we just have you do this? And so I took over the forecasting. However, the client never looked at it. So that kind of slowly dwindled away.
Okay. Do you recall what the end result was for them? Because nobody wants a cash flow nobody wants to do forecasting.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to do budgeting. Did they speak to the end result that they really wanted?
And the client still struggles with it. They aren't making a profit on their sales. They're losing money each week. And so they continue to raise money. And their whole thing with the cash flow forecast was, how can we spend this raised money in such a way that we can make it last? Because they have so many debts that they could easily raise money and just spend it all in 1 week to pay those debts.
Okay. So everybody's motivated in one of two ways. There's gain motivation, I want something, and there's deficiency motivation, I don't want something. And so this client is coming from a deficiency standpoint. I don't want debt.
Mhm.
I don't want to have to raise money. I want to obviously have profit and pay down the debt, right?
Right.
So that's kind of a little bit of insight. So the reason I'm kind of diving into this, Hannah, is that I want to make sure, number one, that your clients would value this.
Mm.
Okay. And what I mean by value is that this is something that when you say your value proposition, what this is, that their ears perk up.
Yeah.
And they're like, I want that.
Sure.
Right? It's almost like they're saying, shut up and take my money.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that I would tell you first, before you venture too far down the road, is to set aside some time with your clients every single month when you're going over the financial statements. I assume that you do that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Set aside time to say, hey, let's talk beyond just your financial statements here this month. Let's talk about what is it that you want from your business. And so what I would tell you to do is to really start having this conversation and seeing if you see a common thread. And it may be that it's cash flow services. It may be that it's forecasting. Those are terms that they use, and it's real important that you use the same vocabulary that your clients use. But find out and really dive into the why. The 5 levels of why is what Ross O'Loughlin, our marketing Sherpa, tells us all the time. It's like, hey, I want forecasting. Okay, I understand that. Why is that important to you? Well, it's important because I want to make sure I don't run out of cash. Okay, well, what's the underlying fact on that? Well, and you get down to it, it's like last year we almost had to go without groceries because whatever, right? It's either feast or famine. And so first thing that I tell you to do before you venture too far down the road is to really get at the root of what they want.
Okay.
Not considering, hey, am I going to be paid for this right now? Just saying, what is it that my clients really want? So that's first and foremost. So I would tell you just to dedicate and tell your clients ahead of time, say, look, I'd like to talk 15, 20 minutes with you about your business, like your vision for it. What do you want with money wise? Where do you see this? Are you going to sell one? I mean, just get them to open up to you. And I know you, Hannah, you've established a working relationship with them. So you're already a trusted advisor, a shoulder to cry on. So they're probably going to open up to you much easier than they do to anyone else.
Okay.
So that's first thing. Now, based upon that, let me ask you this. Are you presenting the statement of cash flows to your clients every month?
I was not, because I did not understand it. And I recently, in the past few months, have started doing so and explaining it to them, which they did show a lot of appreciation for.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'll tell you, in my experience, I'm pulling this from the nether regions, but 98% of all bookkeeping, accounting professionals do not present the statement of cash flows. Yeah. The number of compilation reports that I see from CPAs that say the statement of cash flows is omitted, and I think that that's a cardinal sin. Yeah. Not saying you're bad for not doing that, but you're making the way in which to introduce this now. Yeah. Because this is, and I just filmed a video about this yesterday, kind of some absolutes that we maintain. Imagine going to your doctor, Hannah, and there was 3 tests that she could run to determine your health. You weren't feeling well. Maybe you're having heart palpitations and all this stuff. And she says, you know what? There's 3 tests. We're going to run 2 of them and make sure that you're okay. And you're like, well, what about that third one? It usually doesn't, or maybe it does. I don't know. I don't care. We're only going to run 2.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're doing when we don't present the statement of cash flows.
Yeah.
And the reason that bookkeeping professionals and CPAs don't present it is that what you just said, they don't understand it.
You're right. Right.
And even if they do, they're like, well, it just blows my clients' minds and they don't understand it. Maybe because we didn't explain it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of the things, action items, is to continue doing what you're doing. Present this to every single client, but learn everything that you can about the statement of cash flows.
Okay.
Learn the indirect method. Learn what these things are telling you, because this, again, is one of the most important. If I think that it's the best financial statement. If I were voting on the financial statement of the year, I would vote for the statement of cash flows.
Sure.
Because it's that important. So first and foremost, really get familiar with that, because that's going to be the springboard to providing the service that you want to, if it is in fact cash flow services.
Okay.
So that is one thing right there. And I think I know a guy who might be doing some training on that in the future. Statement of cash flows advanced, how we understand that. But really getting to the root of what it is that your clients want, and understanding what the statement of cash flows is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So let's look at this from another angle. What are the most common questions that you get from your clients as it relates to anything dollars and cents wise?
How much money do we have? What can I spend this on? How can I pay these bills?
Okay. So it's 2 of those are centered on cash.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say that your clients are, and when it comes to financial savvy, novices, or somewhere in between?
I'd say most of them are somewhere in between, but I deal with a lot of, and I'm not sure if it's the way I've handled it or what, but like they don't show a lot of interest in meeting with me on a monthly basis. And so I end up sending them videos because they won't make a time to call. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is data driven, I think, reconcile my bank accounts, get everything categorized, and I'll pay you for another month.
There you go. Okay. So here is a something that I take to heart, and pretty much all my clients were in that same boat, right? They want abdication, where they say, here, Hannah, this is your problem now. I don't want to look at it.
Yeah. Yep.
Rather than what they need to have, and that's collaboration.
Okay.
So the size of the clients that you serve, like, what is their annual revenue? Just as a sweet spot.
I'd say right around $1 million average.
Okay. So they're not tiny businesses.
No.
They're definitely small businesses. Okay. So one of the things that I would tell you to do right now, let me back up for a talk with you about that. Do you need more, or are you looking to take on more clients?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Are you doing that from a financially motivated, like you need the money, or is this, I just want to grow my business and take it to the next level?
I just want to grow my business.
Okay, great. So you have leverage, right? You don't have to take on any more new clients.
Right.
Okay, so it's like being, the prettiest person around. Everybody wants to date you, right? And then, so what this does is it gives you leverage in terms of, I don't have to take on any more clients, so it takes the pressure off of you.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I would tell you to do is, as you're screening new clients, is to really look at, are these clients willing to collaborate with me rather than just hand everything over to me?
Sure. Okay.
Because we want to work with people who are already predisposed to the advisory services that we want to add,
right,
that we want to provide. But a lot of these people have never had that. So it's almost like speaking a foreign language to them.
Okay.
It's almost like, hey, you know what? I'd love to help you with your cash flow. They're like, what's that? You actually do that? There's somebody who can help me with that. And if, you really need to start vetting them on the front end as to how, what other services that you can provide, and that they're willing to not only go along and do that with you, but they're willing to pay you for it.
Right. Okay.
It starts in I talked about this in the very first podcast that we released here, the show I Love Bookkeeping with Ben Day,
Yeah.
about qualifying those prospects. So go back and listen to that. I know you have. There'll be a test on it at the end here. It's multiple choice, so don't worry.
Oh, good.
No, but go back and listen to that, because it really starts at the very beginning.
Okay.
Because what we don't want to do, number one, the exercise I gave you, kind of working through what is it your clients really want.
Right.
If you come back and you don't, it's all about like compliance, and it's not anything that you really can help them with, then that it's going to be hard to sell them on these advisory services. And even if you do, it's probably they're not going to see the value in it, and therefore when you raise your prices, they're not going to want to pay that.
Sure.
Now that's fine. You got those clients, right? But when you start with these new clients, ask yourself, are these people that would pay for the advisory services, need them, and are willing to collaborate with me on them?
Sure. Okay.
So it kind of starts at the very beginning.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, there's probably a handful of clients that you have in that dozen that would value it, right? It doesn't mean that you fire the other ones, but what I would say is that once you kind of get this ball rolling, once you've done the couple assignments that we've talked about so far,
Mm-hmm.
once you've kind of started to indoctrinate yourself on what it is that they want, speaking with them, and then really learning the statement of cash flows yourself, learning other ratios and things like that that relate to cash, but more important, relating to what it is they're asking for.
Sure.
Then what I would tell you to do is to pick one client and give it to them for free.
Okay.
Make them their guinea pig. Don't even tell them. Say, look, hey, do I have a surprise for you this month? Right? I want to show you this. And go into it with the attitude that it's almost like an internship. You're getting experience, but you're not going to get paid for it.
Sure.
If you do, that's great. If you don't, then you've added value to them. Now, whether they listened or not, that's up to them, not to you. But really start to kind of just do this and surprise them and wow them and shock them. And, they're going to walk away going, even if they don't want to do this into the future, it's great experience for you, and you're just doing nothing but adding goodwill to that relationship.
Sure. Absolutely.
So that will really dictate, those things right there are going to dictate what it is that you're going to be adding. And using the phraseology, using the terms that they use. They may not call it cash flow management. They may call it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be using the terms that our clients so that we are speaking on their level and we don't have to interpret what we're saying.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So that's really, that's the name of the game right there. It's so simple, right? It's like listening to our clients and then providing them with what they want.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe I don't want to call it raising the caliber of the client. Maybe it's just raising the savviness or the like who it is that they are at their core, right? If they just want bookkeeping and you want to provide to them, certainly you can. We had Daniel Honan. He has several packages. One of his packages has advisory services and the other ones don't.
Sure.
So it's not like you have to provide this to all. It's not an either or proposition, or it is an either or proposition. It's not a, hey, everybody has to fit in this one mold.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you, when it relates to your business, what is your special, unique ability? Like, what could you do all day long that when serving your clients that directly relates to them? Like, if you look at your to-do list today or any day, like, what do you gravitate towards? What really is your passion?
Honestly, and this is probably why I feel like I need to start a journey towards a value add service, is because I love data entry. I love it. I love working in QuickBooks. I can solve a lot of problems in QuickBooks. Occasionally I come on something that I need to ask help figuring out. But for the most part, my understanding of QuickBooks, I don't know. I feel like that is what I love to do, is figure out the problems and do the data entry. It sounds so simple, and that's kind of why I'm trying to reach out beyond that.
Yeah. Would you say that you like that because you're comfortable with it?
Maybe, I'm so used to it, and I feel really confident that I know what I'm doing, and probably yes, because I'm confident.
Okay. And I'll tell you, that's pretty much everybody who has a pulse
Yeah.
is that way.
Yeah.
We don't like to venture outside. I mean, when we were cavemen and women, we had a certain area and we didn't venture outside of that because it was in the unknown territory. And
Yeah.
that's where you're going to be venturing when you add these types of services. But you really like data entry?
I
Are you
do.
okay?
I do. Like moving stuff from HubDoc to QuickBooks, I don't know. It's like soothing to my soul.
Yeah. Do you have anybody else that works with you, or are you doing all of this on your own?
So far I'm doing all of it. I'm hoping to move to the point where I have a subcontractor at the end of the year or by the end of the year.
Okay.
And of course then they'd be taking away my favorite job, so I'm not sure if I want them to do that or not.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your end game? Like, where do you want to take this business?
So I'd like to have a couple of employees so that I can work a little more part-time. I'm not sure, I guess, the idea of raising my kids and having time for them while still working and running a business that can grow, because I know with just myself, there's a limit. And especially once we decide to have kids, there's going to be a heavier limit, And so I
Absolutely.
kind of want to prepare myself before then, that I have a business that is on an upward swing and it can go as far as I can take it without it just being just me.
Okay. Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to get away from that love of data entry.
I know.
And I think that you understand that, right?
Yeah.
So, because otherwise it is going to involve your, monthly, if not weekly activity in there, depending on how you serve your clients. So, I would really start to kind of get clear on that too, like what it is that you want for your business, what is it your clients want, and where is the sweet spot in there where you can get both.
Yeah. Okay.
But you're taking this from the right viewpoint, Hannah. I want to commend you for that. Like, hey, how do I provide more value? How do I venture outside of the known that I have right now? All these things are great,
Okay.
right? It's just now, how do we implement those?
Yeah.
How do we put them into play? And this is your first things. Now, we can certainly do a follow-up on this later down the road after you've had those calls. But this is not hey, I'm going to have 3 calls and now I've figured it out.
Right.
I speak with students every single week. I just call randomly sometimes, and I'd speak to them. And I've had probably hundreds of those conversations, looked at thousands of posts and comments, trolled other groups. I mean, I've been, I know our avatar backwards and forward.
Yeah.
Not because I'm smart or genius or anything, just because I've had so many conversations. I can almost tell you the words that are going to come out of the conversation we're having. I can almost tell you verbatim what they are going to say.
Sure.
And the only reason I've been in front of them, that's the same thing I want you to do with your clients.
Okay.
And when they're listening to you, they're like, did you tap my phone? Are you in my house in a camera? Are you a creep? Something like that, because we just start to learn them.
Yeah. Okay.
So really, kind of bringing this full circle, let's talk about your homework. Let's talk about your action items. So what are your action items, Hannah? And I'm going to be following up with you on this. Not really, but you're an adult. You can do this on your own. But what are your action items?
Well, first, I'm going to talk to my current clients and figure out what they want, why they want it, those 5 levels of why that you talked about. I'm going to dig in and see what do they really want, because I have my own assumptions, but to hear it from their, own selves, that's going to be a big thing. And I can take them at their word instead of just assuming. So, and then I'm going to learn this statement of cash flows. I did some research, like I said, but I really want to know that thing, back and forth and be able to say it in my dreams, because I agree with you. I think from what I've learned, it's extraordinarily powerful. And I am quite embarrassed that I let that go for so long, because it's like, wow, this is really good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't be embarrassed. There's CPAs and there's tons of people that don't understand. It's not just you.
but I do want to understand that more. So, and then taking on new clients, which I'm right now, I'm definitely doing kind of a big push for taking on new clients that want to actually have those conversations with me and who are interested in advisory services from me, instead of just the data entry, which is probably part of the reason I love it so much, is because that's why I'm appreciated, as they love it that I got all their books taken care of, but they don't want that. My current clients don't really want that advisory from me.
Right.
So to just kind of change that with new clients that I'm taking in.
There you go. Awesome. That's great. Just one little tip here that I want to give you as you're speaking with your current clients and future clients. Think of it from the jobs, pains, and gains viewpoint. And what I mean by that, what are the jobs, the roles that your clients or potential clients are playing in their business that they don't want to?
Okay.
So obviously they don't want to be the bookkeeper, right? You would wish that on their worst enemy, I should say.
Yeah.
That's a role that we have to play in our business. Am I doing it? Is somebody else doing it? So that's a role.
Mhm.
Paying bills, that's a role. Doing forecasting, that's a role. All these different things. So that's a job. So what are the jobs that they're doing in their business that they don't want to do, that they want to outsource, that are pains in the necks to them?
Okay.
And then that brings me to the second one, pains. What are the pains that they're experiencing? Not really the roles that they're playing, but hey, I have very cyclical cash flow and I can't seem to get my head around how to manage this, to how to prepare for when everything is great. How do I store it in these, I do it in storage bins with agriculture, but then I can't do it with cash flow. How do I do that? That's a pain point. Okay. And then gains. What are the things that they want? Right. So think about it that, don't tell them, hey, we're going to go through your jobs, pains, and gains. Be like, what is wrong with you? Just take it from that perspective, though. Yeah. What are the jobs, the roles that they don't want, and how can you help them to overcome that? What are the pains that they have that you can help to alleviate, and what are the gains that they want?
Sure. Absolutely.
Well, Hannah, it has been a treat to have you on here today. I can't wait to do a follow-up on this down the road after you've implemented some of this. So just want to thank you again for being and playing along with us here on the game show, I Love Bookkeeping.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so much fun and really insightful. I'm so glad I did it. I was a little bit nervous beforehand, but I'm really glad I did it. So
there you go. Good. Now, if you want to find out more about Hannah Yoder, you can go to gsbookkeep.com, not bookkeeping, but GS, G is in golf, S is in Sierra, bookkeep.com. And then her email, this is on LinkedIn. I'm sure that's okay. It's Yoder, Yoder, at gsbookkeep.com. So thanks again, Hannah, for being here, and best of luck to you. I know that you'll rock it out as you've done everything else in your business.
Thank you so much, Ben. It was great to be here.
Listen, if you would like to hear more great conversations just like today's, then I want you to head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com. There, you're going to find all of the shows, the notes, and some other great goodies that we have for you there. Now, if you'd like to be a guest on the I Love Bookkeeping show, there is a link that says Be a Guest. Go in there, and we'll walk you through the process of getting on the show. And finally, to discover more about our programs, go to the courses page on the ilovebookkeeping.com site. There you have it, another great episode of I Love Bookkeeping. Thank you for being a proud listener, and thank you for being a bookkeeping professional. Enjoy the rest of your week.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change your life, you want to grow that biz, it's not as hard as it looks. Be a money guide, a profit coach, step up your game